Hi, everyone. Good evening. We have a quorum. We have five commissioners out of 8 present. So we have a quorum for this ANC general meeting on February 2nd. So let's have the commissioners present introduce themselves, starting with our newest commissioner, 1C01, Howard Bollicky. If we could start there, please. Just introduce yourself and tell us about your or just tell us what SMD you serve. Oh, sorry, Howard. Unmute yourself for a second. Commissioner Bollicky. Yes, there we go.
Yeah, we'll get to it eventually. Yes, it's great to be here. Thanks very much. I was sworn in several days ago. I introduced myself back in December, so I won't run through all that again, but retired lawyer, 27 years on Capitol Hill, bought this place here on California Street back in 1990, been here ever since. And this district is the far southwest corner of 1C. I like to say we're in the shadow of the Hinckley Hilton here on California Street, Vernon Street, 19th, half of, one side of Wyoming, share the other half with Commissioner Wood. So great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. 1CO2, Commissioner Carano isn't here right now, so Commissioner Wood, please.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Peter Wood. I'm ANC 103. As Commissioner Bollicky said, it goes from 18th to 19th, built Martin, Wyoming.
And that goes to Commissioner Faulkner.
Hi, Commissioner Megan Faulkner, 1C04, represent the northwest corner of Adams Morgan, the area around Walter Pierce Park.
Great. Commissioner Felsenthal?
Hi, Deb Felsenthal, and I represent 1Z05, a little further north of Commissioner Faulkner, on the northwest side of Adams Morgan. So yeah.
1C06 is Commissioner Boots, and he won't be in attendance today. So 1C07, Commissioner Falaschini.
Thank you, Chair. Jake Falaschini, 1C07, 18th to 17th, Florida, up to Lanier Place, generally speaking.
And my name is Fiona Clem. My SMD is 1C08, which is the southeast corner of Adams Morgan. So the next thing on the agenda, welcome everybody. The next thing on the agenda is to approve the agenda. So are there any additions or deletions? Okay, well, I will say that there are some additions. I would like to make a motion to add a settlement agreement for Grand Duchess. The LLC is actually To the Heavens, but I'd like to add a settlement agreement that we just finalized this week to the agenda. If I could get a second. Thank you, Commissioner Wood. Are there any questions or discussions on adding the settlement agreement to the agenda? Okay, great. Okay, so all in favor of adding the settlement agreement for Grand Duchess to the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any objections? Please say nay. All right, great. So that is, and now that we actually have six commissioners present, all voting positive. So we'll add that to the ABC area of the agenda. I also make a move to add a settlement agreement for Andy's Pizza. Andy's Pizza is, sorry, my phone just fell. Andy's Pizza settlement agreement was just signed yesterday or today actually. But anyway, so I'd like to make a motion to add that to the agenda too.
I will second that as well.
Commissioner Wood. Any discussion or questions on adding the Andy's Pizza settlement agreement to the agenda? Okay, great. All those in favor for adding Andy's settlement agreement to the agenda, please say aye.
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 Great, thanks. And with that done, the agenda is approved. Thank you, Gordon, our fabulous AV man. He put the agenda link in the chat. So the next thing on the agenda is the officers' report. For the chair's report, I don't have much, but I will say that I am keeping an eye on the council's legislation for virtual meetings. Virtual meeting emergency legislation ends this Friday, the 4th. So we will keep you informed as we stay informed. What that means for the meetings is if the emergency legislation, which Councilmember White has proposed, to extend the virtual meeting option until the end of the year. If that is not passed by Friday, then our meeting next week for ABC and going forward will have to be in person. And there's no contingency for like hybrid at this time, or there's no real policies about that. So we'll keep an eye on it, and we will inform you as we learn. I think I will speak for myself by saying that I hope that the legislation goes through, but we're not sure. Thank you. That's the chair's report. Commissioner Valentine, our secretary, please.
Thank you. I don't have anything as secretary to report.
Thank you. Commissioner Faulkner, as our treasurer, for the treasurer's report.
Yes. So our bank account balance currently is $11,188.15. No expenditures to report this month since we are waiting for our security fund forms to be approved. I just got confirmation today that the check has arrived 2 weeks after it was mailed, and so we are hoping that we will be approved soon. And then we'll be able to once again make expenditures, but other than that, no report.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Faulkner. All right, next up we have commissioner announcements. And if you are the chair of a committee, if you could go ahead and tell everybody the committee that you chair and the next meeting. So we will start with commissioner announcements for 1C01. Commissioner Balaki.
Well, since I just started, I don't have a lot to announce. I do want to thank you and thank my predecessor, Amir Irani, and thank the staff over at the ANC office. Everybody's been very helpful. Got access to my email yesterday and got access to that shared Google Drive. So I've been going through a lot of stuff, and I'll just leave it at that. It's good to be here. I was poking around on the history of the district a little bit. And since it's Black History Month, let me just mention that back in the 1930s, Vernon Street was a segregated African-American neighborhood, which is something I didn't really know until recently. And it's, with the Knickerbocker event last weekend, there's history all around us, and I just thought that was worthy of note. I think the population influx in World War II kind of brought that to a halt, but it hasn't been that long. So thanks very much, and back to you.
Thank you, Commissioner Balaki. Commissioner Wood.
Thanks. So yeah, I'm chair of the Alcoholic Beverage Control and Public Safety Committee. So next meeting is a week from today, February 9th, 7 p.m. We're planning on having 2 items on the agenda: monthly report from the 3rd District of the Metropolitan Police Department, and also we'll be hearing from Yerevan Cafe, which is on 18th Street between Wyoming and Calorama. They're interested in pursuing a restaurant license. They want to sell some Armenian wines and other things during lunch hours. So excited to hear from them. And then as Commissioner of 1C03, I'll give the abridged version. There's been a lot going on. One thing that's been on the minds of a lot of people is there's a property 1840 on Calorama Road Northwest that has a bit of a dated history of kind of some issues, but it's packed with a lot of stuff. DCRA and fire department have been taking care of it. Most recently, it's been secured with boarding. So if that's been on anyone's minds, because I've gotten a lot of emails about that. I believe they're coming on Friday in 2 days, DCRA, to inspect it. I'm not sure exactly if that's changed, but there's that. There's been some other issues that'll probably be easier to address with MPD next week. There's been a few, I think, thefts, and then also there was a death in Hargrove Park recently. A lot of ongoing issues, which is kind of hard to encapsulate, but definitely on the radar for us here. And I guess I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Commissioner Wood. We're going to go a little bit out of order because I see Commissioner Carano. Commissioner Carano, could you introduce your SMD, and then if you have any commissioner updates as well as your committee updates, please.
I apologize for my tardiness there. I'm Celeste Carter. I'm the commissioner for 1CO2 on the west side of Adams Morgan between Connecticut and Calvert. And I'm the chair of the Public Services and Environment Committee. Our next meeting will be the 23rd at 7 p.m. I don't believe we have any items on the agenda now, but still a few weeks away. And no key SMD updates.
Thank you, Commissioner Carano. Commissioner Faulkner?
Yes, so as chair of the PZT committee, our meeting will be 2 weeks from today on February 16th at 7 p.m. There is currently nothing on the agenda, although I believe we will likely have a resolution related to the U Street streetscape, but that's not yet formally on the agenda. Aside from that, just wanted to mention that there are COVID centers now open in the different wards, including one in Ward 1 at 800 Euclid Street, which has, I think they have vaccinations, boosters, take-home rapid tests, access to walk-up testing to do a PCR test there, I believe. And I think as of this week or last week, they're also dispensing, giving out free KN95 masks to folks. So I will put just the link in the chat. There is very helpfully a live inventory of whether masks are available, so people can avoid going if there are no more masks available. And that is all I have for announcements.
Thank you, Commissioner Faulkner. Commissioner Felsenthal?
Yeah, sure. Well, the signaling work that's being done at the 16th Harvard Columbia intersection is really just about done. Well, at least the new signals are mostly in place now, and the crews are still working on removing the old posts. So there's still a lot going on there, but the new signaling should be mostly in place by the end of the week, I believe. And the Capitol Bike Share station that was previously at that corner and has been removed for about the past year, given the construction, it should be restored sometime within the coming weeks. So looking forward to that.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Feliskini, sorry. Multitasking, sorry.
No problem. And sorry, I'm also taking notes as secretary, so I am flipping back and forth as well. Thank you. An exciting month. We had our third round of vaccinations being done at Marie Reed at the clinic there, which was I think exciting for a lot of the families for their kids to be able to get vaccinated. That's the 5 to 11-year-old pediatric shot. Also, folks might have seen that the Pfizer vaccine is currently under review and hopefully will be available for under 5 children by the end of this month. It's my understanding that those will then also be added to the pediatric clinics that have been popping up around DC. So folks should wait to get that schedule. And when that schedule is listed, the free vaccines for under 5 kids will soon be available. So that's very exciting. Also, Commissioner Valaki already opened the door, and it is Black History Month, and we have a very exciting free concert that's being offered by the National Symphony Orchestra, celebrating our own George Walker. His birthday was this month, 100 years ago. And he was one of the premier composers from the United States and wrote several celebrated symphonies. And his symphony is going to be played in our district over at the Howard University Crampton Auditorium on February 15th at 7:30 p.m., celebrating some of his symphonies, and also will feature Beethoven's Symphony No. 4. I can't believe that I'm actually able to announce an in-person event. And I know that, it's still scary with COVID out there, but for in-person events in DC, remember that there is a vaccine mandate in place. So if you do decide to attend this in person, it is a very special thing to be able to attend this, and the orchestra is really incredible. And everyone who will be there will also be vaccinated. So just know that that event is also happening. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thanks, all commissioners. For SMD 1C08, at the moment, I don't have any updates, so we can move on to the next item of the agenda. And the next item of the agenda, which is the update from Mr. Culpepper from PEPCO about the imminent construction of the near B and 17th Street and the Champlain substation. Gordon, is there a way that we could promote Trevor's Culpepper, please?
I'm working on it.
Okay, thank you.
Hello,
Hi, Trevor's. How are you today?
I am doing quite well. How are you, Commissioner Clem?
I'm good, thank you. We are looking forward to more information about the construction at 17th and B Street. Do you have a presentation this evening, or are you just going to give us an update?
I am going to just give an update as to where we are. I know the last time that we had spoken, it was at the meeting last year, but we also went to the Transportation Committee meeting as well. At this point in time, we have suspended the transmission construction that was supposed to be on Florida Avenue later this year. That has been pushed out until the end of 2023 until the end of 2024. The end of 2023, I'm sorry, beginning 2024, around that time. But we do still plan on installing the distribution construction on V Street, as well as along Florida Avenue near Ontario Road, and that is scheduled to begin in April of this year. At this point in time, unfortunately, we're still evaluating whether or not a street closure will be definitely needed. We're trying at our best right now to avoid that. And we're going through some redesign on the distribution line along V Street, but we should have an answer sometime this month. I just wanted to provide that update, and then also wanted to share that I did get the information around the Champlain substation and the site cleanliness. Just wanted to provide an update that feedback has been escalated to our maintenance department, and we are working to finalize a schedule to clean that up, and looking forward to sharing that with you this week or early next week. So just wanted to thank you for your time, and wanted to answer any questions that you all have or questions from the audience.
Thank you for the update, and thank you for being here. Are there questions from the commissioners?
Yes, sorry.
Yes. Commissioner Valsky.
Thank you so much, Trevor's. It's very nice to have you here, and thanks for the update about the substation cleanliness. I really appreciate you taking care of that quickly. My question is, when you said still debating a road closure, the last time when we last got the update, you talked about V Street being taken down by one lane. Do you mean an entire road closure, like all of V Street, or just taking it down to one lane?
No, so there's several, so let me actually do have so I'll share this screen, and please let me know if you can see this screen here.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, if you look here, this is the 1700 block of V Street. There is a potential to close just this 1700 block from 17th Street to Florida Avenue. because there will be 2 distribution lines that we are installing here. And just because of the space that we have and the geography of this segment, there is a potential to close this street. Now, on Florida Avenue, as you see here in the green, we will not be closing Florida Avenue at all. This will be 1 lane of traffic for each side of the street that we'll be on. The only impact will be at this 1700 block of V Street here.
Got it. That makes sense. Thank you. And the V Street from 17th to 16th stretch that you're looking at for phase 5, is that would that be a 1 lane or a 2 lane closure?
This would be a 1 lane closure. We would still be putting in 2 distribution lines, but we are certain segments along the entire scope of work are going through some redesign, particularly along 16th Street here. But yes, but this is there are no other road closures anticipated.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you very much, and I look forward to also following back up with you, Commissioner, about just touching base on the site cleanliness as well, because we're looking for a schedule there and looking forward to sharing that with you all. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions from participants? It looks like Mr. Hughes has a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Sorry. No, I didn't have a question for the gentleman that is speaking. It was very clear. My question has to do with the fact that this meeting is being conducted by hiding participants. And I thought we had discussed this and had agreed that participants would not be hidden. Best practices that I've seen everywhere says.
Thank you for your question. Right now, we are discussing PEPCO and construction along Florida Avenue. Thank you. Any questions for Trevorris about PEPCO and construction along Florida Avenue near V Street? Well, Mr. Culpepper, as always, thank you so much.
Hold on, Fiona.
Yeah.
Kristen asked, can Trevorris repeat the Florida Avenue work postponement?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, Kristen. What I was saying earlier was that when we first came to the ANC about this scope of work in the area, it was 2 parts to it, and there was a transmission portion that would have been along Florida Avenue, starting at 16th Street all the way to 18th Street and Adams Morgan, but that has been suspended, and we're only doing the distribution work that was shown on the screen. And I hope that answers your question, Ms. Barton. And thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks for catching that, Gordon. And thank you for your time, Trevorris. It looks like there are no other questions. So thanks again for your time. And as construction continues and as you get more information, please feel free to reach out to us, because we'd always, the neighborhood always wants to hear from you about the construction. Thank you.
Absolutely. And anything that I can do to be a resource, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or give me a call. So thank you all.
Okay, great. Thanks. The next item on our agenda are public announcements. If you have a public announcement, please raise your hand, and also try to limit your public announcement to about 2 minutes or so. Thank you so much. It looks like, oh, there we go. Thank you, Gordon.
Hi, commissioners, ANC 1C. You have a new background today, which is my kitchen. So, if anybody needs any spices, you can see what I have on offer here. So my name is Allie. I'm the Deputy Director for Constituent Services for Ward 1 Council Member Nadeau, and ANC 1C falls into Ward 1. Let's see, is anybody just listening today? No.
There's
Okay.
one person on the phone, yes.
Okay, so for the person on the phone, my number is 202-531-5186, and I'll go ahead and post my information in the chat. I don't have any kind of specific updates from Councilmember Nadeau, but we will be sending out a newsletter very soon. So I do encourage everybody to sign up for Councilmember Nadeau's newsletter, which is at brianneknadeau.com. We don't send that many, and it's just a great way to kind of catch up with what she's doing and where she is and when she'll be in the ward. And just to say that our door is always open for any government services that maybe are not working as you think they should be. Of course, your ANC commissioners are there, but we are also there to assist both your commissioners or just assist on our own. So unless anybody has any questions, well, I would be remiss not to say that we are in oversight hearings. So I'm happy to also post how people can sign up to testify. If you've had an experience with a government agency and you want to say that on the record and try to spur some change publicly, it's a really great opportunity. You can talk at any oversight hearing. They're all public. You can also submit written testimony and I believe video testimony. And there's also budget oversight after the regular oversight hearings, but definitely a great way to make your voice heard. So I will be sure to post that in the chat as well. Unless anybody has any questions, that's all the announcements I have.
I appreciate that, Allie. Good to see you. And thanks for the council members' work. And I'm sure that there are people who would like to possibly, learn more about the Oversight Committee hearings. So that would be great if you posted that. Thank you. Kristen Barton.
Hi, everyone. I am the Executive Director of the Adams Morgan Partnership Business Improvement District, for those of you that don't know me. And I have some fun events coming up now and later this spring to mention to you. And I also want to thank Josh Gibson, who's a former ANC commissioner, and Kevin Ambrose from the Washington Post, who invited us to participate in the Knickerbocker Theater Memorial candle lighting and reading of the names of the victims last Friday. So it was a very moving event, and we were really pleased to be a part of that. And I know more about the Knickerbocker Theater than I ever thought I would know, but it's really fascinating history, and it's an important part of Washington, D.C. history and Adams Morgan histories. So I encourage you all, if you're not familiar with what happened in January 1922, to please do a little bit of research on it. It's fascinating history. So we have right now ongoing is our Valentine's Day decorating contest. We're encouraging retailers who have windows that face 18th Street or Columbia Road or Florida Avenue or wherever to decorate their storefront windows. Fiona is going to be the ANC representative that will serve as a judge for the decorating contest. There are 3 prizes. First prize is $500, second prize is $300, and third prize is $200. So there is real money that the businesses can win. We have, I think, 17 or 18 businesses already signed up, so it's a really good start. This is our 3rd year doing this, so it's building some momentum, and it's a really fun event. So decorating will be ongoing. The judging is going to start on the Friday the 11th, and then there'll also be a People's Choice category that will count as one judge. So the People's Choice voting will start on Friday and run through Monday. We'll make the announcement on Valentine's Day on the 14th. So that's a really fun event, and everyone can get involved. Everyone can vote. So date nights, we just kicked off date nights again. This is the 4th or 5th year we've done this event, and this goes on for the whole month of February and March. Each week we do a drawing of people that have signed up to be eligible to win one of the date night packages. It's a whole variety of different things to see and do and eat in Adams Morgan. So I'll put in the chat the URL where people can go and sign up to enter the contest. It's really a lot of fun, and we launched the we sent out a consumer email blast yesterday on February 1st. And within the first day, we had over 200 people sign up. So it's really popular and it's a lot of fun. We're exploring doing a smaller concert series in Kalorama Park this spring in partnership with the National Symphony Orchestra. This would be probably a 3-week series, and we would have a string quartet 1 week, a couple of guitar players another week, fairly small kind of, happy hour timeline on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. We're still kind of finalizing the details, but we're thinking it'd be kind of a nice, late spring activity in Kalorama Park. So stay tuned for more on that. But we're aiming for end of April through middle of May. And then, of course, we have movie nights coming up at the end of May and into June. That will be on Tuesdays. And we'll be back at Marie Reed at the soccer field again this year. So we have those Tuesdays already locked in there. And we'll be doing brown bag movie night meal deals with the restaurants so that you can, pick up a dinner and bring it down to the field to watch the movies. So more coming on that. We're still finalizing the list of movies, and there will probably be a theme this year as well. So stay tuned for that. Let me see what else. We're also working on doing another art walk. Last year was the first year we kicked that off. We partnered with the DC Arts Center, and they found artists who were interested in displaying their artwork in storefront windows. We had about 10 artists, I think, that we partnered with businesses. And then we did QR codes and signs in the windows so that people could learn more about the artist, more about the art, and purchase it if they would like. So we're going to do that again, probably mid-April through May. I think we ran it for about 6 weeks last year. I have big news. Some of you already know this, but I would be remiss if I didn't tell you all that we found out the other day that we won a Streets for the People grant from the Office of Planning of $525,000. 75% of that needs to be spent on infrastructure. And we applied for the infrastructure needed to close 18th Street and have a pedestrian zone on the weekends. So our proposal is that once this can all get installed, and we're hopeful that that can be maybe by April, that then starting in May, about 1 weekend a month, we would close 18th Street and have it be a pedestrian zone. So fingers crossed that timeline sticks, but that's our goal, and we're really excited. Finally, we have the real money to try to do this. So thanks to the Office of Planning, thanks to Councilmember Nadeau's office, who has been really supportive and really helpful, ever since we did the pilot weekend closure in June 2020. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Lots of good stuff. Can't wait to hear updates from the grant money. Thanks. There's one more hand raised. Mr. Hughes.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Sorry for the interruption in the last question. I thought you were asking me for my input on the chat that I sent out. So I didn't mean to interrupt the flow there, but here I have a question for this. So we had a representative from the DC Department of Transportation last month who spoke clearly about the proposals for converting Kalorama and I believe it was Wyoming into one-way streets. And one of the commitments that he made is that before there were any plans implemented to convert 18th Street into a pedestrian zone that would then pour 18th Street traffic onto Kalorama Road, there would be another analysis of traffic patterns. Is that no longer the case, or do we know?
So Commissioner Faulkner could probably address this also, but I will say that there's sort of two different things. The pedestrian zone that Kristen Barton's talking about is through a grant money to the ADMO bid. And the one-way street in Calorama, one-way street in Wyoming is a different one. And the NOI for discussion on actual feasibility and implementation hasn't been sent out yet. Is that correct, Commissioner Faulkner? Do you have any other information on that?
Yes, that's correct. And I believe that Derek Voigt from DDOT was speaking about the possible permanent conversion of a pedestrian zone rather than temporary special events, which is what the current proposal and that the bid got funding for. So I think they don't generally do traffic studies for temporary weekend closures once a month. And so that was my understanding that the idea of the study would be if there is a more permanent plan on the table.
And when that NOI comes out, it'll be posted to probably the listserv, wouldn't it? There are ways in like Twitter. There's all sorts of ways that DDOT will share that information with the neighborhood, including I think the ANC will do that also.
Yes, I think DDOT will share it with us, and we'll share it with the neighborhood. We'll likely be able to discuss it at a meeting as long as the timing works out, because obviously the NOI is only a certain amount of time. But yes, I have not received any further updates from them.
If I may, am I still on? Do you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So if I may, I can understand having closures for special events. Mount Pleasant Day. Adams Morgan Day and things like that. But this looks like a more permanent arrangement whereby the road would be closed once a month from April, I suppose, through September, October. So that looks like a very permanent type of arrangement. And the disruption along Colorama Road, when all of 18th Street traffic pours onto that residential street, it will be quite significant. Wouldn't it be advisable to conduct at least a study to see what the impact will be on the residents of that road?
I don't know how the implementation would actually work. I would think that the Adams Morgan bid would have to work with DDOT and other agencies with the District of Columbia in order to get those items sorted out. I don't know if Kristen Barton would like to respond to that, but I'm sure that there will be public input the same way that there was public discussion on the closure in 2020.
There's a lot of work that's going to have to go into this. We're scheduling a meeting with DDOT to figure out the permitting process for the street closure infrastructure. We don't know if it will be something embedded in the roadway or if it will be temporary and brought out each weekend for the closure. We have no idea yet. So all of that has to be worked out with DDOT still.
Thank you. And will those be items that will require, or is public comment going to be allowed for any of that process? Or is that process just between the bid and DDOT?
That I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But I do know that this is federal money that the Office of Planning has gotten, and it all has to be spent before the end of December. So there is a real push on this, and there's not a lot of time.
Okay. Well, thank you. Mr. Hughes, you still have your hand raised. Do you have another question?
Yes, I do. Not to belabor the point, but it seems odd to me that something that could not be accomplished through the regular review process is being accomplished because a federal grant has been awarded. And it seems to me that we're not. I am in favor of turning 18th Street into a pedestrian zone, and I have been all along. I just think that we need to think about the impact of diverting traffic from a main commercial road street in DC onto a residential street. That's buses, trucks, delivery trucks, all sorts of stuff that's going to come on to Colorama Road from 18th Street. And as I suggested when this was debated last year, that we have to give consideration to diverting traffic not just from Colorama Road, but down to Florida Avenue, even this one weekend a year is fine. If you recall, one of the main objections that came up to diverting traffic down at Florida Avenue was because the school hours, and they needed parents to be able to come up 18th Street to pick up children, which I think is really important. But obviously on weekends, that's not going to be an issue. And so I just would like the commissioners to think a little carefully about how we can accomplish this without really imperiling the residents on Colorama Road. And I ask for a little bit more thought to be given to this before it just gets implemented.
I appreciate that. I think that it is, I think that this is the type of, first of all, the news of the grant funding is relatively new. And I do think that this could lend itself to a larger community discussion. So, yes. Commissioner Falaskini.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hughes, for those comments. I certainly, so I also am very supportive of doing the street closure in the pedestrian zone, but I share many of your concerns. I live on the corner of Champlain and Colorama at ground level and can attest to the traffic that gets diverted off 18th at times and how challenging it can be for our area. So I certainly plan to follow this very closely, to request traffic calming measures along Colorama and also along Champlain Street. I know that we're also looking to do traffic calming measures along Colorama. And I take your traffic concerns extremely to heart and will do my absolute best to make sure that as we are approaching this project, that we're doing it in a way that is going to be best for the neighborhood, and we'll make sure that we are not creating a traffic nightmare for everyone around 18th without calming things down and making sure that we're in complete contact with DDOT about making that a priority.
Thank you, Commissioner. Eddie from 1700 Harvard Street. Do you have a comment?
Hi, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So I'm new to DC. I'm new to ANC meetings. It's my first one. So I don't know if this is the best occasion or forum to which to bring this to your attention, but so I live at 1700 Harvard Street, which is right next to 1650 Harvard Street, which is currently undergoing an asbestos abatement project. It appears that they're working within their permits, but the noise from them is insane. Like, it is unbearable, and it starts at 7 a.m. almost every day. I lived in New York for 5 years. I've never experienced such a nuisance. They throw materials down these huge chutes, and it's just this kind of echoey, rumbly thing. So the reason I even bring it up at this meeting is because I watched the video for the last meeting, at least part of it, where the lawyer for the owner of 1650 presented on the zoning variance relief, right? And kind of the tone I got was that there was very little community opposition to this project or negative remarks about the project. And I know that is speaking to the setbacks specifically, and I'm speaking to the asbestos abatement, right? But I just wanted to register my complaint as to the asbestos abatement specifically. I'm a little bit, I have concerns if this is the way they do business or this is the way they operate. I do have concerns about the setback project in the future, but that is maybe for another time. So mainly just wanted to inform all of you of that.
Thank you, Eddie. Welcome to DC and the ANC. I would like to ask if Commissioner Felsenthal could reach out to you or put her email in the chat box. There are ways to register this noise complaint, especially if it is 7 days a week. There are restrictions to construction. I'm not completely familiar with all of them, but it's possible that we can work with you to register a complaint, okay? Commissioner Faulkner.
Yeah, I was just going to add that Commissioner Felsenthal, I don't know if you wanted to.
Well, feel free to go ahead and I'll just speak after you.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I don't know if this site has an after hours permit, but usually construction before 7 a.m. is illegal construction. So Commissioner Felsenthal is your commissioner and can probably help you with that, but it is 5 a.m. is not generally permitted, and usually the ANC would receive notification of after hours permits. And so
I did say 7 a.m., which I realize is the beginning of the allowable, thing for construction or trash hauling in DC. But it's just, I know it's legal, but it's like, I'm just saying it's really bad.
You can also certainly file, I think, noise complaints as well.
Commissioner Felsenthal.
Sure. Yeah, so I actually got an email from Mr. Pruitt I just saw about like 10 minutes before this meeting. So thank you for sending that to me. And in that amount of time, I did some quick Googling on DC's laws regarding this, and so yeah, 7 a.m. Start time is absolutely, within the, legal limits. You did mention in your email that there were some 90 decibel sounds, and that kind of concerns me. From what I found is, it's within a 25-foot limit around the site. You should not have decibel limits exceeding 80 decibels. So that is what, I mean, it sounds, uncomfortable overall, but that brings me the most concern about this. I'd like to chat with you a little bit more about this and see what we can do to make this more comfortable for people in your building.
Thank you.
Great. Well, that looks like that wraps up the public announcements. I did want to go back to Mr. Hughes's point, and I would like to say that I do think that that the point about closures on 18th Street is a neighborhood concern. And so I think the ANC will have to discuss how we can best inform or, voice concerns of the neighborhood or discuss any closures like that with the neighborhood. Maybe that's in the PZT committee. I'm looking at Commissioner Faulkner, or maybe that is a standalone ad hoc community involvement session. But anyway, appreciate the comments. Thank you. Okay. So next on the agenda is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is created so that we don't have the items on the agenda are generally agreed to without discussion. The consent agenda includes the minutes for the January meeting. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great.
Any objections? So that passes, if we do the math, 7-0. On to the regular agenda. The regular agenda, we voted to approve discussion on the settlement agreement that was recently signed for To the Heavens, which operates as Grand Duchess. If we could please promote Vinnie Rotondaro, please. The settlement agreement was recently negotiated. So Grand Duchess is located at, and I put a link in the chat, Grand Duchess is located at 2337 18th Street in the middle of the block near Belmont, across the street from Belmont. And they were operating under like 3 or 4 different settlement agreements and some amendments because that used to be High Dive, it used to be Pharmacy Bar, and various other places. This year is a renewal year, and so Vinny, one of the owners of Grand Duchess, reached out to the ANC and asked to renegotiate their settlement agreement prior to the renewal period. So we've been back and forth for the last several weeks, and we came up with a settlement agreement that will then supersede the other settlement agreements. And I think it works for everyone. And then Vinny, if you want to say hi to your neighbors, and then we can get to discussion or questions.
Sure. Hey, everybody. My name is Vinny Rodendaro. Like Fiona said, we're doing Grand Duchess for about 5 years, and pretty much just ditto what Fiona said. It was sort of a mashup of all of these old documents with amendments, and a lot of the info in it was kind of, some of it contradicted itself, or just was out of date, overly specific and kind of dated. And I don't know, we took a look at it. Also, our name wasn't even on it. Our LLC wasn't on it. We've been in business for about 5 years. So we figured it was time to kind of clean it up. And, we've kept, I think, most of the major provisions and protections intact. In other words, we're not going to become a dance club. We're not going to, like those are some of the major things. We're not going to be a music venue. We're going to still serve food, those kind of things. But ultimately, it's just cleaning up a document that I think ran about 15 pages or 20 pages long. And it's now down to about 7 pages. And, worked with Fiona and Dennis James over the past couple of weeks. And before that, got in touch with Amir Irani. And I hope that it's an acceptable document, and that it's, something that everyone can feel good about.
Thank you, Vinny. And then, Vinny, do you want to tell us a little bit about what happens at Grand Duchess? You have some art exhibits on occasion, and sometimes fundraisers.
We've had just kind of different events. Like political. We remember someone running for city council did an event one time. We started doing some art shows. I mean, a lot of this has been disrupted because of COVID, obviously. But it's a great spot for events and functions. And that's something that we think brings, we think it works really well in our spot. And it's also, it's I think good for the community as well. So, yeah, but obviously with COVID, put a damper on some of that, but we're hoping for better days. So.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Vinny about the settlement agreement or about Grand Duchess from the commissioners? Commissioner Faulkner.
Yeah, I think you mostly answered this, but I think my only question is just whether there's any major changes. It sounds like it was mostly just making it concise and streamlining it, but just that's my only question.
No, the only change that I think I don't know if it's considered major or not, but before it said we couldn't be open before 11. And one of the ways this came into my consciousness was that we had been toying with the idea of coffee. And it was just like, why can't we be open before 11? And just not to talk about liquor. That's we have other rules about that we have to abide on that. This is just, if we wanted to do that, why couldn't we do that? So, that was really the major one so far as I could ascertain. I don't know if Fiona has anything she could add to that, but it was ultimately cleaning it up is what it seemed like. And then working with her and Dennis on I'm not really sure, even just sort of like boilerplate type rules about trash pickup and things like that. So, yeah.
Thank you. Are there any questions or discussion from the attendees? It doesn't look that way. All right, thanks, Vinny.
Thank you.
All right, so with discussion ended, we'll take a vote on approving this settlement agreement for To the Heavens, otherwise known as Grand Duchess. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. That's great. So the settlement agreement passes. Thank you so much. That's 7-0. Great. Thank you, Benny.
Thanks, guys.
The next on our agenda that we voted to add to our agenda is Andy's Pizza. Andy's Pizza is located 2465 18th Street, next to Bossa. I'm putting the settlement agreement in the chat. And if Andy Brown is on the call, it doesn't look like Andy Brown is on the call. Okay. All right, so Andy Brown is not on the call. Andy's Pizza. Andy's Pizza. This is a brand new settlement agreement. This is for a Class C restaurant license. It's going to be a New York style pizza place. He's going to have a bar. It's a relatively small space, but he will be selling alcohol, a lot of some carry out and stuff like that, and operating like a restaurant from 11 to 2 a.m. Any questions, or if Commissioner Wood had any more comments on this establishment?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, first, just thanks the ABC committee who kind of tackled this as a team. It was on a really tight schedule, I think more than we wanted, but and also with Dennis from KCA. So thank you so much for seeing this through. I think that Andy's is especially excited because now they get the chance to open this month. The one point that they brought up in the committee meeting a few weeks ago is that they're very much not trying to be a very late night, intoxicated jumbo slice establishment. They want to kind of be an earlier hours establishment with the occasional chance of if there's an event where they want the option to be open later, they'll do so, but that's really more of an exception than a rule type thing. So, and they're really nice. They have a place, I think, in Shaw, and I think a good addition to the neighborhood.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from the commissioners? Any questions from the participants, the attendees? All right, great. So there's we'll be voting on approving the settlement agreement. And then, well, let's vote on the settlement agreement, okay? So, yes, thanks, J.I. All those in favor of passing the settlement agreement for Andy's Pizza, located at 2465 18th Street, please say aye.
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 Thank you. That motion passes 7-0. I make a move to approve a stipulated license. With the settlement agreement approved, a stipulated license allows the licensee to operate and sell alcohol prior to the placard period ending, which in COVID-19 times is 66 days, so that once we get this into ABRA and Andy's Pizza is open, then with a stipulated license, they can begin selling alcohol. Could I get a second for that motion, please?
I will second.
Thank you.
Or
any discussion on stipulated license, what it is, what it does? Any questions? Okay, great. So with no discussion, we'll vote on a stipulated license for Andy's Pizza. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Great. Any opposed, please say nay. All right, so the stipulated license passes 7-0. Thank you so much. All right, so on to the next part of the agenda, the Planning, Zoning, and Transportation Committee. First off, we have a presentation by Ms. Thomas for the Rock and Roll Half Marathon.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Back in front of you guys again. Thanks for having me back. And I'll be very quick. This event's in its 14th year, so I'm here presenting on the Rock and Roll DC Half Marathon. Traditionally, it was a half and a full, but you know, we've dropped the full marathon, so it's just a half marathon. It runs on Saturday, March 26th, so it's coming up at its regular time of the year. It was last run, a lot of you probably saw it back in November, when we had 11,000 runners come through your ANC. That would not, the November event won't return. This has always been a March event, and that was just a special exception. So we had it on the 13th. Same course as you saw in November, same streets as it came in November. It's an 8:30 start time down at 14th and Constitution, and it wraps up through your ANC at about 11:45 when you see that last street sweeper come through there and you know, pick up all any trash or cups or anything. Streets that are impacted again, the runners are coming out of the park. They're going to be jumping onto Calvert, coming down to Adams Mill, making a left onto Columbia Road and coming out of your ANC at 16th Street. Again, the last run, the cleanup is usually clear and opening the streets by 11:45. That's how it was in November. I'm hoping that's what you guys saw as well. MPD does control the streets, so we rely on them to make that decision when it's safe enough to open the street. There is one water station at Columbia Road, and it's between 18th and Mozart. So that's where you'll see water stations, and no entertainment in this ANC. We used to have one at the Sun Plaza there, and that, you know, was a little impactful for your neighborhood. So that was taken out. So you won't see any music or anything in your ANC. The issue on parking, MPD is requiring us to do no parking on the course. So you probably saw that in November as well. Those signs go up a couple days ahead of time. I know some cars were towed. I think a lot were actually left on the route after MPD just did a sweep of the course and did not move the cars. But we are required to put the signs up for MPD. So you'll see those up again. We'll have the course signs up going up, those 22 by 22, just to remind people it's coming in the next Saturday. And then we usually take those down the same day after the event ends, or the next day, no later than the next day, but you won't see those signs lingering for weeks and weeks. You shouldn't anyway. So that's in a nutshell what the event is. I'm happy to answer any questions that your commissioners may have.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you addressing the loud music. That was definitely a concern, and the no towing. You know, the only thing I can say about the no towing is if you do move a car, we would rather have it be a courtesy tow than an actual tow, right? Right. I mean, there's streets are wide enough to accommodate, and we all know that parking is at a premium in Adams Morgan, so courtesy tows would be appreciated. Could you please, in the chat, post a map? Do you have a link to a map?
It's on the map side. Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you so much. Okay, great. Are there any questions from commissioners or discussion points? Commissioner Balaki.
Thanks very much. And folks who tuned into the PZT meeting last month heard me talk about this, and I'll repeat myself and try to keep it brief, just because I think this is an issue that needs to be put, you know, on the record. And certainly nothing against the presenter, nothing against marathons. You know, I ran the Marine Corps Marathon 40 years ago, and that was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime experience. But my issue here is that Ironman is owned by a privately held corporation, Advanced Publications. They own Condé Nast, which publishes Vogue, The New Yorker, and Wired. They're majority shareholders in Reddit, in the Discovery Channel, which is about to merge with Warner Media, and with Charter Communications, which is the second largest cable operator in the country. I have nothing against any of these businesses. I've been reading The New Yorker for decades, and I'm glad somebody is, you know, keeping them above water. But I just do not see the public policy rationale for giving a private corporation special privileges to screw up the lives of hundreds, if not thousands, of our constituents just so they can make some money. And with that, I don't expect a response, but I hope it'll be in the minutes. And thank you much.
Thank you, Commissioner Balaki. Any other comments or discussion from the other commissioners? I would like to bring up a point that was raised in the chat. In the past, the marathon has affected some local events. Is there any coordination or are there any contingency plans about if there is a local event going on at the parks, or if there's a farmer's market going on, or anything like that that would also be permitted, and so publicly, it would be in the public knowledge or whatever. But
Actually,
what I'm saying,
that came up in November. I think you had some
Yes.
cars or trucks that needed to get into the farmer's market. It was a
Yes.
simple, if I know about it, if you guys can let me know about something like that, connect me who needs to get in. It's just a call to MPD to make sure those officers know to let those cars in. I think we were able to accommodate some of the trucks that needed to get into the farmer's market. I hope I'm not wrong, because I know we, let MPD know. So that's just a simple coordination. That's why I come out every year. That's why I'm in command for the event. So if you guys are experiencing anything or something's going on that I need to know about right away, that's what I'm here for. And I share my cell number that I'm easily contact or text. So absolutely.
thank you very much. Yes, I would appreciate your contact information or an email, and we'll have to check with some of the local events, DPR, and any other thing that might be happening, just to make sure that it's coordinated and that our neighborhood events are, not impacted.
Will do. Mhm.
Thank you. Any other points of discussion or questions? All right, great. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Thomas. And if you would not mind dropping the URL
I
in
hit
the
send too soon. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Next up is a consideration of a resolution in support of Walk Without Worry. Commissioner Faulkner, would you like to introduce this resolution?
Yes, so this resolution came out of the PZT committee 2-0 because Commissioner Abalaki wasn't seated yet. The resolution is in support of the Walk Without Worry Act, which was introduced by Ward 1 Councilmember Brianne Nadeau, and then also the Safe Routes to School Expansion Regulation Act, which was introduced by Councilmember Janice Lewis-George. It's basically, there are two bills. The Walk Without Worry Act would standardize the use of continuous sidewalks, raised crosswalks, which I believe would affect a number of intersections in our neighborhood, including, I believe, the intersection where Nina Larson was killed in November. And then the Safe Routes to School Act would have to do with larger school zones and reduced speed limits.
Thank you so much. Are there questions about this resolution from the commissioners? Are there questions about this resolution from the neighborhood? Great. Well, there is no discussion or questions. So with that, we will vote on support of the resolution in support of the Walk Without Worry and Safe Routes to School Expansion Regulation Act. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. And I keep on forgetting to ask for abstentions, but we're pretty much unanimous. So that passes 7-0. Thank you so much. Great. Next on the agenda is a discussion on DDOT's public space construction application for CVS at 1781 Florida Avenue Northwest. So a little update on that. The ANC is asked to weigh in on this public permit for construction staging, and we were asked to weigh in a couple of weeks ago. Commissioner Faulkner and the PZT committee held a discussion on this, and we heard from some neighbors and we got some good input. In the meantime, the review process for this construction staging the permit has been removed. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to say like anything other than removed. It's just a thing. It's not there. We don't have the ability to provide input on this. But it's been on the agenda for more than 10 days, so I couldn't take it off. So I just would like to tell the neighborhood where we stand on this. And if we find out anything in the future, of course, we will keep you informed. Commissioner Faulkner, do you have anything to add to that?
Just that it looks like this particular application has been, I think, applied and submitted several times in the past. So I think there's been some revisions. So yes, that we're not sure if that's just what happened, but yeah, we'll keep people updated if they reapply.
Great. Thank you so much. Next item on the agenda is the Public Service and Environment Committee. And a consideration of a grant application for Jubilee Housing for funds supporting a resource center and a lending library. Commissioner Carano, would you like to introduce this grant, please?
Yeah, so this is a request for a $4,000 grant. And as it said, for support of a lending library and resource center that would support residents, particularly teen residents who've been affected by learning loss during the COVID pandemic, providing both a site for mentorship and additional learning support and access to resources. The application has been pre-cleared by OANC, so all is okay for us to consider in terms of the spending itself. And it came out unanimously out of PSE. And we have a representative here to share more about the grant application. So I'll pass it over to Chris.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, commissioners. Thank you for everyone who's on the call in the neighborhood. My name is Chris Babuli. I'm the Director of Development for Jubilee Housing. Just very briefly on Jubilee, and then we'll talk about the request. Jubilee has been in the Adams Morgan, Columbia Heights, and Mount Pleasant neighborhood since 1973. We have 10 properties to date, many of which reside or fall within ANC 1C. And so we are happy to be able to present this opportunity to continue to bolster the community. In particular, Jubilee Housing focuses on justice housing, which is deeply affordable housing with nearby or on-site wraparound services, such as youth education, resident services, and other opportunities, not only for our residents, but also for the greater community. So in particular, the request is for, as Commissioner Celeste mentioned, the lending library and a resident resources center. I have the application here, and I hope it has been a pleasure for those who've seen it to see. Essentially, the lending library is our direct response to COVID. In particular, Jubilee's target audience is low-income people, especially those who are marginalized. The lending library is for youth participants in our youth services, and it will be located at the Maycroft Apartments at 1474 Columbia Road. However, that site is actually not only open for youth participants who are residents, but for the greater community overall. It is supposed to be utilized to bolster the understanding of the students. In particular, the reason why we are thinking about the lending library in regards to funding versus DC Public Library is in regards to closing the gap, in regards to the financial issues that some of our constituents face. In particular, Jubilee's mission has been to create equity in the neighborhood. And this is one of those ways that we're continuing to provide equity. As we looked at the DC Public Library, which we very much value, the proposed lending library will be a free service to participants of the programming. And in particular, the public library system, while it is free and and issues a free library card, which is good for a year under DC Public Library's current fee policy, which began April 6th of 2021, items that are 30 days late overdue will have a flat fee of $5 per checked out item. Items overdue by more than 60 days are considered lost or damaged and can have fees between $8 and $20. In addition to a $5 fee, and there's a maximum fee of $40. I know that that doesn't seem like a lot for some people, but in particular, the population that we serve is in need of financial resources. In particular, Jubilee, 2/3 of our residents, our units are reserved for households that make 30% of median family income. In the District of Columbia, for a family of 4, currently that's about $38,000. The other third of our units are reserved for households that make 60% of median family income. In the district, that ends up still being extremely low for families of 4. And we are proposing this lending library, which I will talk about in detail in regards to the books that will be therein, so that there is still the continued education for these students. The Teen Center program that it's bolstering in particular, its focus is a free after-school program. It's also a free summer program. In particular, it serves that Teen Center program, and our youth services serve K all the way through the age of 21. The Teen Center, where the lending library itself will be located, in particular, not only has a focus on STEAM as an educational curriculum process, but also socio-emotional learning. And we have incorporated some of the city's first high dosage tutoring as a direct response to COVID. In fact, our Director of Youth Services, Audrey Walker, was awarded by DC Action in 2021 in the fall for leading the out of school time cohort in the District of Columbia, inspiring thousands of organizations to create hybrid models that allow for students to have safe havens that are supervised, clean, and where food is also being provided. As we know, many students were receiving food through the public school system. So as a result, the reason why, once again, we're creating this lending library, while we still understand that the public library is there, is because of COVID, because many of the residents that we serve and the people in the community also have mobility issues. Jubilee operates in large part focusing on providing opportunities through tax credits. And so many of our residents fall within those barriers and are receiving tax credits for particular needs that they have. And we don't want the library, which is free, to be a burden to their students' learning overall. So that's the first thing that is in this presentation. The second thing is the Resident Resource Center. The Resident Resource Center, this opportunities for the creation and utilization of this resource center, which currently serves all of Ward 1. The resource center is located at Jubilee's Ritz apartment building, and it is run by Maya Gaskins. Maya came onto the team in 2021 and immediately jumped into action to uplift and redefine resident services, addressing the public health concern in particular, to assess the needs of the community impact from COVID-19 and the marginalization that existed in the community prior. She implemented a new system of care and case management driven by American psychologist Abraham Maslow's theory on the hierarchy of needs, which focuses on serving residents' needs in terms of stabilization first, before consideration of more evolved needs systematically. that resource center that was created is also the home of the Capital Area Food Bank site in DC. So we serve not only residents directly, but there are hundreds of people that are referred to Jubilee's resource center for everything from benefit procurement. Oh, there's another commissioner here. Welcome. Benefit procurement, navigation of Social Security, understanding of bills, translation services, food security, clothing security, and the list goes on. She implemented a drop-in system, and then it shifted into regular hours because of the dire need that was being expressed by hundreds of people. On average, we experienced 30 to 40 people dropping into this resource center per week in 2021, which is very large. And we are a home for also, I mentioned food. So there's bread that we give away. There's cooked meals that we also give away as well. And they were, because of how we were requesting things, you know, they were only giving us a certain amount, and we don't have the storage for more. And we need to store more food for more people and more clothes. So this request in particular is to bolster that space, which is really just an open space, a community space, where we've put some tables and we've put screens up and we've put in safety precautions. We are requesting funds for storage containers to store more food, to increase on some baby supplies in particular has been a need, on clothing racks so that we can actually hang clothes and not just have it folded, so that there's even more dignity as we're doing this work for the community. And it is, we additionally, on top of that, because of the need, we have been bolstering it ourselves with the hiring of new resource coordinators. 2 new staff members were hired in December 2021 alone because of the dire need that was experienced in the community. So we really, really appreciate the opportunity to present these 2 opportunities to the ANC and to the public. We really hope that this will continue to uplift ANC 1C as well as Ward 1 with accessibility and resources that are available for all. I welcome any questions that you have.
Thank you, Christopher. That was very, that was an excellent explanation of what you do and the needs of that would be addressed using this grant money. Are there any questions from commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Wood.
Hi, I think just to kind of double down on that, super thorough, love it. I mean, you've clearly done a lot of work thinking about this, which is huge. The Jubilee umbrella contributes so much, and you guys are awesome. This is more just a question of curiosity. I don't want to like put you on the spot too much, but I'm just curious. I know that a lot, especially right now, of what's kind of called the pink collar economy has been really difficult. And you mentioned, I forget the specific term, but a type of more intensive tutoring, which I presume requires a lot of staff. Like, how is the, and like with the having a particularly curated library, one of the big values of a library is librarians. I mean, how does that, not to, like I said, put you on the spot for that, I don't think it should be contingent on this question, but just how are you dealing with getting people to fill those positions? Because it seems very hard right now.
So I think that might be 2 questions is, you know, how many books we have, and then additionally, how it's going to be staffed. Is that correct, Commissioner Wood?
Just in general, for it's the more intensive services that require people to do really important work. Like, are you guys getting through that okay? Just kind of thinking in the future what we can look out for to direct you towards you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. So Jubilee has always been committed to providing excellent service through having the correct capacity, personnel capacity, as well as the level of expertise in order to carry these things out. But one thing that we have seen is that we need more people. So the teen center in particular, we also recently hired on a resident services assistant and tutoring coordinator. Previously, the directors of the respective programs, Senior Manager Emmanuel Bajobi and Director Audrey Walker, were coordinating with DC Reed's American University and For Love of Children in the coordination for high dosage tutoring, which is suggested at 3 to 4 times a week. We brought on Ganea to help the teen center in particular with that coordination to lighten Mr. Bajobi's role. And then in addition, we are in the process of hiring a dedicated tutoring coordinator who will coordinate all of the services for Jubilee overall, not only in the teen center, but as well as our early start and activity zone, which go from K through 6th grade. Because as you mentioned, it is a big feat. And there needs to be dedication, and there has been dedication, and personnel capacity has been expanded in order to allow for, healthy living for the staff as well, to allow for students to get the best care, but also the best care for our constituents.
That's great. Glad to hear you guys are going. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for asking.
Are there any other questions from commissioners? Are there any questions from the neighborhood?
If I could just hop in here for a second.
Sure.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Balaki? Yes.
Just a brief comment. Thank you. Just a brief comment. I heard your presentation last month before the ABC, and just wanted to say I'm a complete fanboy of libraries. I totally support what you're doing in this regard. I worked in libraries. My mother was a music librarian. As you can see, I own way too many books already. And just beyond that, as I've looked at the ANC over the past few months, I've had a chance to look at a couple of your other applications, Jubilee's applications. Just want to say very supportive of what I've seen you doing. You guys are out there doing the sort of things that a lot of people think we should be doing, but not enough people are. So I'm glad to see 1C is supportive, and I hope to join that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks, Commissioner. Well, it looks like there are no other questions or discussion points. So with that, we will bring this to a vote. All those in favor of the grant application from Jubilee Housing for funds supporting a resource center and lending library, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. And any abstentions. So that passes 7-0. Congratulations, Jubilee Housing.
Thank you so much.
Sure thing. And with that, that's the end of our agenda. That's the end of our meeting.